Ni hao, or as we're more commonly used to, hello. We are the group that studied China for this project. The following slides will show a little in-depth presentation of what business can be expected in China, and we will at the end discuss 3 products that we feel would be strong to start up over there. Now let's take a look at China's Hofstede cultural dimensions. These scores give insight into what is moral and important in Chinese culture. A low score in individualism tells us that China values the efforts of the whole rather than the efforts of the individual. China's score in power distance suggests they best exist in hierarchy and respect the chain of command. Their score in masculinity suggests they value competition and find it to be professional. A low score in uncertainty avoidance suggests that China is risk-averse and values security. The low score in indulgence suggests that the Chinese are a disciplined people and delay gratification in order to accomplish their goals. Now let's look at some history and the impact on culture that it's had. Confucianism has been a big part of China for the past 2,000 years. These beliefs have had a great impact on the culture of the country that affects all parts of life, including business. Confucianism stresses duty, sincerity, loyalty, honor, filial piety, respect for age and seniority. Since 1949, communism has had a significant influence in Chinese culture as well. Over the past 5 years, economic reforms have changed many things, but the influence of communism still impacts businesses' relationship, including the role of businesses and the idea of job security for employees. Some key negotiation strategies are as follows. Number 1, be prepared. Chinese negotiations are often extensive and may require several visits. Number 2, remain calm, cool, and collected. The Chinese are very passive and will use tactics such as remaining silent to create tension. Applying time pressure and prolonging a decision are also used. Number 3, China makes decisions as a group, so you must win over a majority of the group to reach a decision. And number 4, China values relationships, especially business relationships. Make it apparent that you value their relationship. Some quick facts about government and politics in China. Their current president came into power in 2013, and he's expected to serve for the next 10 years. The Chinese also give preference to domestic businesses over foreign businesses. However, as we'll explain later on, China does see the implications that foreign businesses can have on their GDP. Also, China is a communist nation, and the government controls their financial system. As you can see on the graph, China has an incredibly high fiscal health score, meaning that China is relatively stable economically. China, however, scores low in government integrity due to government corruption in the communist state. Its score in business freedom is high, but slightly lower in labor freedom due to difficult labor conditions. China encourages entrepreneurship and provides a strong legal framework for businesses. The process to start a business is long and requires an in-depth profile of the business that is submitted into the government for approval. Because the process is so long, it also becomes very expensive. Companies must provide the scope of business, location, feasibility study, and the amount of capital invested, type of management, documentation for each founder or board member, and proof of financial status. China's tax system is progressive with a scale from 3% to 45%, depending on the level of income. Businesses are taxed from 20% to 25%. China also requires its citizens to pay into the Social Security system as well, which is split into 3 parts: basic, pension, personal accounts. and additional payment. Because China is a member of the WTO, it has a vast array of countries to trade with and trades with most countries. China has significant obstacles in place for imports, including label requirements, inspections, quarantine inspections before customs release, and a complex system for governing items such as food, cosmetic, and agricultural products. China should avoid trading goods such as food, confections, beverages, and tobacco due to high tariffs. China is open to foreign domestic investment and include incentives for doing so. These incentives include income tax breaks, resources and land use benefits, reduced import-export duties, special treatment in infrastructure development, streamlined government approvals, and startup funding. China accumulated over $500 billion between 1993 and 2003 in FDI. China also has specific economic development zones where these incentives are offered, as well as in an effort to expand the economy in these regions. So the current economic conditions in China, like many other countries around the world, felt the effects of the recession in the US. The economy has since started to stabilize, as seen with a growing GDP growth rate, decreasing inflation rate, and an unemployment rate still below the world average. As we can see on the graph, China's GDP decreased sharply in 2014, but has stabilized since. This is a good time to introduce a product as the GDP is stabilized and higher than in years before. The inflation rate measures at which rate the prices of goods and services increase or decrease in relation to purchasing power. China has seen a steady decrease with the current inflation rate at 6.9%. This is a good sign as it shows that China's economy has stabilized, making it a positive scenario for our business. China's unemployment rate has been increasing in recent years, but is still lower than the world average. Many people already have great jobs and are reluctant to leave unless there is a significant increase in pay and benefits. New jobs are constantly being created due to domestic and foreign business. China's currency is the yen, and they use a managed floating system. In this system, value is determined by other countries' currencies, with the heaviest weight given to the US dollar. Factors that have influenced the value of the yen include Brexit and the 2016 presidential election in the United States. Other economic and financial risks to doing business in China could be looking at China's overall expected growth. This is expected to be for 2017 6.3%. Also looking at the US government and its current presidency could affect the Chinese economy. When the Chinese economy is affected, this could affect a business's standing as a US business being in China. Also, looking at the poor air quality and heavy pollution do pose risks to businesses that are starting up. China currently has a variety of agreements in place with many different countries. It's important to know that China is interested in making these agreements with other countries, and it's important to us because that could have an impact on how our business will do there. These agreements under consideration are the most interesting. A free trade agreement with the United States could lift some considerable restrictions for our business. This is something we would want to consider when choosing a timeline to start operating in China. The studies do take a considerable amount of time, but it is something to look forward to. Now, the next 3 slides will be our presented 3 options for potential products. Potential product number 1, cashew nuts. The consumption for cashew nuts has increased substantially in China, and the projection indicates that it will continue to grow. As of now, after India and the United States, China is the 3rd highest in consumption of cashew nuts. The main suppliers are based in Vietnam and India, from whom Chinese companies import the processed cashew nuts. If we import processed cashew nuts direct from Ghana to China, we will offer very competitive prices and maximize our profits. Our final packaging must be in Chinese language, and we must inquire further to understand the requirements by Food and Drug Authority in China, so as to get the necessary clearance to import the cashew nuts. Potential product number 2, seafood. Consumption of seafood in China is rising, and in addition, the population of China is increasing as well, meaning that the consumption of seafood is expected to rise even more. The seafood market is actually quite competitive. Russia is China's top importer for seafood, with the US in a close second. Potential product number 3, wristwatches. The Chinese love to find new ways to better their fashion, and they especially love buying foreign products because most of the time the quality of foreign products is better than the quality of products that China makes. This means that China would have to import our product in order to make sure it is going to be profitable. We have to look at their free trade agreements and how they are set up. With China being one of the biggest trading countries in the world, they are in a lot of free trade agreements. We think it would be most beneficial to have our business set up in China or to have our business set up in a country that China shares an FTA with. Thank you so much for going through our slides and seeing what China has to offer for startup businesses. If you'd like to see our sources, you may look through this page. If you have any other contributing questions, you may research yourself and find out what best suits your business practice.